This is our very first episode of That Podcast at That Podcast Studio, presented by the Playhouse. Now, for anybody that doesn't know where the Playhouse is, please, 81 Komiki Road in Fish Hoek, because local is lekker. So if you want to come and record your podcast, this is the place, at That Podcast Studio. I'm getting to the point of introducing myself. My name is Charlene Brouwer.
I'm Lee. I created the Playhouse, and Charlene and I created that podcast studio together.
So excited to be here today with Dr. Kevin. And Lee and I got to know Dr. Kevin, but we are now lovingly calling him Dr. Kev. And I really
in perpetuity.
In perpetuity, trademarked.
We trademarked it, Dr. Kev.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, firstly, Charlene and Lee, for inviting me to come and join you at this beautiful venue, the podcast studio. Is that right?
That
podcast studio. Yeah. Well, by the time we finish this whole series, I'll have it. So my name is Kevin Lentin. I'm a chiropractor. I've been in practice 42 years now. So I'm fairly well au fait with biomechanics and how the structural system of the body actually integrates and ties into every other system. And that's quite relevant to the conversation going forward. But very early on in my practice as a chiropractor, I realized that there was more to the body than just the muscular or neuromusculoskeletal system, so the nerves, muscles, and bones. And I started to realize that the internal workings of any human being is so complicated by biochemistry. And so I started to have patients coming in wanting information about fatigue, for example, or about a digestive system function. And yes, chiropractic can sometimes help with those kind of conditions, but there was something missing. And that's where I developed a liking for functional medicine. And functional medicine is about understanding how the cells in the body talk to each other. So your body is just a big communication system. All these cells, about 37 trillion only, they all talk to each other via the production of chemicals and hormones and chemical messenger substances. So I became very interested in functional medicine. So for some 40 of those 42 years, I've been involved in the principles and practice of functional medicine to help a more integrated approach to patient care. But there was still something missing. There was another dimension, and that took me back to my first lot of training, which was to become a psychologist, actually. So I have an undergraduate degree in psychology. And so I realized that the psycho-emotional system actually plays a massive role in the neuromusculoskeletal system and the biochemical system of the body. And that made me realize that we actually need to address a tri-dimensional model of well-being. You can't just be focused with one lens or one direction. So you can't only talk mindset. You can't only talk hormones. You can't only talk physical fitness. They all mix together. They all fit together.
Because that's kind of, I might be completely wrong. And I've said from the beginning, I am not equipped to ask the complicated questions. I'm here to ask the questions that anybody else would ask, because you go to the doctor or you go to the chiro or you go to somebody to say, my head hurts, my stomach hurts, this hurts. But now you're explaining it, that am I right to say they're all connected?
Absolutely. There can be, in certain instances, certain areas that are specifically need to be focused on, like a sore knee might have nothing to do with the gut, for example.
Sure.
But in terms of preventative healthcare, and sadly we're seeing that the world is actually getting sicker in spite of our improving knowledge about the function of the body. If you look at all the chronic degenerative diseases, from diabetes to heart disease to neurodegenerative diseases, the list goes on and on, they're increasing, dramatically increasing. So something's wrong. We are addressing the body as individual parts, and they're becoming more and more super specialized into areas which in some instances might well be relevant. But by and large, when we are talking about dis-ease, that's the phase before disease sets in. Dis-ease is when you feel like your get up and go has got up and gone. You're just not functioning right. You know there's something just not right. You can't put your finger on it. You might be a bit tired. You might wake up feeling a bit fuzzy-headed. You might have some gut issues. You might have some feeling that your cognition and your memory are just not working optimally. And you might go to the doctor and say, I'm just not feeling great. They do all the blood tests and everything is normal. That is the pre-disease state, what I call dis-ease. And that's what we have to look at more specifically before we get to that disease state, because then you're playing catch up, deal with one area at a time.
I feel like you've just described me and everybody I know.
Yeah.
Everybody has the same story at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm feeling icky. I can't remember stuff. I don't know. I mean, if it's post-COVID or are we still all sitting in that space.
But we're also over 40, both of us.
Speak for yourself. I'm a lot older than that.
Well, interestingly that you mentioned that, Leah and Charlene, because I'm actually seeing younger and younger patients coming with these same complaints. And it's not because of age.
No.
It's not a time factor. It's an overload factor. So even the most incredibly strong metal structure, if you place it under sufficient load, it will break. And while our bodies are incredibly able to heal themselves, actually, we produce antidepressants inside of ourselves. We produce all of our own anti-inflammatories. We produce everything we need, actually, to function optimally.
Really?
And all of these cells that we have, these 37 trillion, as I mentioned, are designed to actually function optimally until at least 120 years of age. The trouble is 120 years of age.
How do you measure that?
So I'm still young.
Yeah, even me.
You're halfway.
Yay!
Well, you're both youngsters.
Oh, and I mean, on that note, should we break it to the audience exactly what intrigued us about Dr. Kev? That he's actually found the solution to the fountain of youth. Because look, break it to them gently, John Roll.
Well, thank you so much. So, I'm 72 now.
Look,
so,
I couldn't. I mean, is that even possible?
When we first met, they said, okay, Dr. Kevin is going to come. He's in his 70s. And I was sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And this guy comes in here. I'm like, surely that. No. There's no way.
Is your dad in the car?
Well, in the famous words, flattery like that will get you everywhere.
Oh, good. We're heaping it on. No, but truly.
Well, thank you so much for that.
Sorry, I rudely interrupted you.
Yes.
120 years.
Yes, so the cells are designed to live that long. However, we bombard our bodies with toxic overload. And that could come from diet. It could come from your thoughts. Each thought that you have is not just a simple thought. It's a chemical messenger substance. It activates cellular control mechanisms in the body. The body says, well, what do I do with this thought? Do I have to fly, run away, start crying, feel happy? So a thought is just a data set. It's information that you have to then put into a state that you can action whatever that thought is. And we know that the body actually, that we subject ourselves to around about 60,000 thoughts a day, give or take a few, and 75 to 80% of those thoughts are negative. And that's by design, because that's how we protect ourselves. We respond to negative stimulus in a way that helps us to protect ourselves in the future. We don't want to do that same thing again, because we put our finger on the hot plate and we learned that it was actually quite sore to do that. So that negative stimulus is stored very deeply in the frontal cortex of the brain. And so we learn what not to do more than we learn what to do. It's a strange kind of paradox, really. So unbundling those negative thoughts that have been internalized for decades, actually, from the time of conception. The very moment an individual is conceived, there's obviously the download of genetic information from your parents, but your entire genetic timeline, thousands of years back, is still programmed into you. But every single second that you or the baby is in utero developing, it is subjected to whatever the mother is going through in her world. And so that programming starts already from that very moment of conception. And then we just amplify the programming with our experience. And as I say, we're bombarded by all these negative stimuli that are coming at us time and time again.
That kind of makes me... I'm like, I shouldn't have a negative thought about this because that's going to affect me somehow. But how do you... Is it possible to restructure the effects of that?
Yes. That's the beauty. Because the body has this innate self-healing capacity. Even the brain can heal itself, provided there hasn't been trauma, like a traumatic brain injury or a cerebrovascular accident, like a stroke or something like that. The brain can develop new pathways, new highways, new neurons to new folders where you can reframe the negative information in a more positive way. But that's what takes this journey. That's what takes the process. It's not a switch. You can't just switch it on or switch it off. You've got to relearn all of those new behavior patterns that have been deeply ingrained. And so that's why I've become so fascinated in this approach to well-being that has kept me passionate for these 42 odd years now.
So what do we do? How do we get there?
So, well, the first thing is you and each of us are responsible for our own health. This story of going to the doctor and just getting a script and handing the power to the doctor, whether it's a medical doctor or any other kind of health professional, and saying, just fix me, that's part of the problem, actually. We have to take responsibility for our own health. But you need direction, you need information, and you need to have a whole person approach. And that's why I've specialized as I have for all these years in helping. And interestingly, it's been primarily females that come to see me. I think women are definitely more in touch with their feelings, their emotions, and their physical body. The men are out there to go and hunt. I'm talking evolutionarily now, to hunt and provide. The mom is there to look after the family. So she can't go down. And as you as moms will know, you battle through even the toughest times to look after your kids. No matter how you're feeling, you keep going. So whenever a woman, whether she is a mom or is about to be a mom or even thinks she might be a mom at some point, she's in protect mode, protection of her well-being for that reason. She might not know it directly like that, but that's why women are much more willing to address their physical, mental, emotional feelings. That's why women are the main part of my practice, and why now at this age and stage I want to share this information more and more, because it's becoming more prevalent that women are feeling the effects of this overload.
And that's exactly why we got here today, because we need this. I need this. Lee needs this. We need so many other women to come and meet you and talk to you. And we are super, super excited. That was the surprise. We are so excited. The Playhouse is presenting 3 exclusive workshops. We're going to do 3 of them in June, July, and August.
So the first area that we're going to look at is perimenopause. There are obviously dozens of topics that we could cover, but what is really prevalent and very topical at the moment is the whole perimenopause, menopause, and autoimmune disease concept. Unfortunately, and I say this very humbly, women often don't understand their own biochemistry. They haven't been taught, they know the cycle and they know, etc. But how and why and when and why the feelings are there, and what is the impact? What does perimenopause actually mean? And when does it start? So much of those perimenopausal syndromes and symptoms are manageable. You don't have to go through that those mood swings and the not understanding why your moods fluctuate and why 1 month you this and 1 month you that. And I've made it a study.
But I just suddenly realize why you do that. Because if you as a man in a relationship understand why she's acting in a lunatic way and you can manage that, your life is going to be so much better.
Often it's a fact that men actually know nothing about estrogen. Men know a lot about testosterone. We won't go down that path just yet. But they don't know very much about estrogen. And it's not necessarily their fault. They've never been taught. Nobody educates them. So part of my job is, when I'm consulting, is to give women the information they can share with their partners, to educate them more and understand more why this is happening. So our first talk will be on the perimenopause, and it will be through the lens of that tri-dimensional medical model, wellness model, which is going to be understanding how each area actually impacts on that. It's not just about estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. There are many other factors that come into it. So I'm going to expand on that and make it very clear in layman's terms so that everybody can understand and have a better handle on how to help themselves. The second presentation will be on menopause, the phase after the perimenopause, and then we'll do a deep dive into how that is affected via that tridimensional approach. And the third one will be around autoimmune disease, which is a condition or conditions. There are many different autoimmune conditions, but they're not often considered when one looks at a symptom profile. and they are very prevalent in women, and they're on the increase. So there's a lot we can talk about around that. And they all integrate with each other. You can have everything. You can have perimenopause and autoimmune conditions. You can be menopausal and have autoimmune conditions. They all impact each other.
And what's great about the events, you're also going to bring the machine to test.
Yes.
And each guest can have a test with you and meet you in person. But if you cannot be here on the day, that will then be broadcast as a episode on that Dr. Kevin show that we are so excited to present here for you. And because I thoroughly believe that everybody needs to have access to your information.
Let me share a little bit about this exciting machine that you talk about. It's called the Omega Wave, and it has really revolutionized my practice because much of what we're going to discuss is around the autonomic nervous system. And you've got to come to the presentation to find out really what the autonomic nervous system is all about. But it's really about two parts. It's about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is the stress response system, often referred to as flight or fight. We'll discuss that. And the parasympathetic is the rest and digest. That's the slow down relaxation system. It's when those two systems are out of whack, where the sympathetic system is dominant, which is pretty much everybody on the planet, basically. But we've never really been able to objectively measure that. So now what you can measure, you can manage. And so once we've got these objective findings, we then do interventions, which could be all sorts of different things: dietary modification, exercise prescription, could be ozone treatment. There's a whole range of things. And then we track it and we see. And then once you see those systems coming into balance, the energy system producing the right amount of energy, that is when healing can actually occur. Not just fixing, but proper healing. So I'm really excited. We can do tests.
He actually said we can do our test today, and then we can actually show the audience how like what is happening to our bodies, and they can actually follow our whole journey. Today we're going to do the test, then we're going to on our social medias just show the progress and what's happening. And I think at the first workshop, present the results, because I know I need it. I need something to reset right now. Dr. Kevin, I'm thank you so much, and I'm so happy that you have crossed our path, and I'm excited to see the very first workshop and how it can be a positive impact for so many people that really needs this.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for providing the space and this wonderful work that you do here.
The Playhouse is a magical place. So anybody that wants to come and present a workshop, it's for everyone that has a dream and want to manifest that dream. Just come to the Playhouse. And then if you want a podcast, that podcast studio is your place to go.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And also like and subscribe the channel. All the details will be in the comment section. So like, click, subscribe. We want to see you here.
Remember the days we painted in gray, drawing the lines, afraid they were straight, walking on tiptoes on a fragile floor, always wanting a little bit more. Felt a tremor, a crack in the glass, a future calling that's moving so fast. One single moment, the world rearranges, the point of no return, a tide of changes. Transition, a brand new vision, colors bleed into the night, stepping out into the light. Now every heart beats a different sound. My feet don't even touch the ground, leaving the shadows of what used to be, unlocking the